Hi guys, it is Dani and welcome to this updates video this morning. I trust and hope you're doing really fantastic. So we're going to be talking about a rain surge in parts of the Northern Caribbean due to a frontal system. This is one of many instances of something like this that will take place over the coming months. So as the hurricane season eventually comes to its end and we head into late autumn going into the season of winter, early next year, we will be having these frontal systems moving down and impacting the Caribbean, and that's already starting. So we'll talk about that. In addition to that, we have two tropical waves which are in the tropical Atlantic, and they're headed to the west, so nothing unusual in regards to that. However, there are still those trends about seeing some development in the Caribbean, which may be significant provided the conditions allow that to happen. So we're also going to be talking about that today. So let's go into the details. Okay, so this morning we can definitely see here on the satellite imagery that there is some shower and thunderstorm activity that is ongoing in parts of the Northern Caribbean. So that is being influenced by a frontal system. So ahead of the boundary where that mass of cooler air meets the warmer air, we have a lot of atmospheric instability. So that's what's helping out to influence all of these shower and thunderstorm instances. Let's zoom in here before we talk more about those two tropical waves. So we can clearly see that going on for parts of the Leeward Islands, even near the Virgin Islands, a few spots in Puerto Rico. Earlier we're experiencing some heavy rain and even thunderstorms. And that boundary extends to just north of Jamaica, thereabout. Here is a look at the surface chart, and we can see that diagonal line with those blue triangles. So that is representative of a cold front, and where that line is pretty much the separating point between the mass of the cooler air and the warmer air. So that's definitely going to be helping to influence a lot more rain today for parts of the Northern Caribbean. And speaking of, let's go ahead and take a look at the rainfall forecast, and then we'll go on to those systems. So here we can see what is expected, and more color indicates more rain. So across parts of the Leeward Islands and other areas, Anguilla through Guadeloupe, there could be some additional periods of heavy rain, maybe up to an inch or exceeding an inch in terms of the rainfall amount expected. And with a lot of heavy rain, there could definitely be instances of flooding. And it will be a similar story for the vicinity of the Virgin Islands, possibly a few spots in Puerto Rico. Headed to Hispaniola, which comprises Haiti and the Dominican Republic, there could be some instances of some additional thunderstorms today. Likewise for Jamaica, heavy rain definitely going to be possible, may trigger some minor flooding in those areas that are more flood prone. And it may be a similar case for the southeastern part of Cuba, going to a couple sections of the Cayman Islands. So again, ahead of that frontal boundary, there's a lot of atmospheric instability, and that's primarily what's influencing the rain for much of the northern islands of the Caribbean. And going to Central America, for a few spots in Belize, maybe some showers around, likewise Guatemala all the way through Panama. Heavy rain will be possible within that. Going to Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana, not very active, but there could be a few passing showers, likewise for the ABC Islands. And then for the Lesser Antilles, Dominica, through Trinidad, Tobago, including Barbados, may not experience much rain, very limited rainfall activity today. And up to the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, a couple passing showers may loiter within that area. So that is what is anticipated as it pertains to the rainfall activity. Now let's go back to this graphic here. As we look to the tropical Atlantic, we can see where the axes of those two tropical waves are. And here are them on a closer view of the infrared weather satellite. So we can see that one a bit further to the east, and then that other one not too far from Northern South America. And imminent development is not expected. It's really when the tropical wave, especially the one that's further east, when that one approaches the Caribbean, when it moves into the Caribbean, conditions will likely get more conducive to allow it to develop. So very quick development is not expected for now while it's in the tropical Atlantic. And the tropical wave ahead of it, sometimes these waves, they can actually help out each other. So tropical waves, they are areas of atmospheric instability which help to influence a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity. So this one ahead can actually pave the way for the one to follow, where it helps to increase a lot of moisture ahead of it. So it could be a helper for this second tropical wave. And in terms of what our models have been showing, so there's been that consistent trend about seeing something in the Caribbean, and we are still seeing that now. This is a look at the Euro ensemble members. So we can see that all of these members take the system into the Caribbean, moving through the Windward Islands and headed west. But what happens after that, we're not really solid on that. No one really knows just yet, because number one, we're pretty far out. Number two, there are going to be many possible scenarios, because if it is a case where there's a weakening in that steering mechanism, which is that high pressure area, then we will eventually see a curve, and that is expected at some point. But how soon will it make the curve? Will it happen as soon as it enters the East Caribbean? Will it happen in the Central or the West Caribbean? So there's no telling in regards to that. But one thing that we're seeing, that all of our members are showing, the members for Euro here, is that it is going to be entering the Caribbean and potentially developing while it does so. And as it relates to the GFS members now, GFS showing something a little bit more interesting here, has something moving up and out a lot quicker, and also shows a little cluster of those members in the Central and Western Caribbean. So as I said, there is zero certainty right now to say where exactly it will go after entering the Caribbean, after that tropical wave enters, but we definitely have a lot of time ahead. And just to reiterate once more, short-term development is not expected of the system. It's not yet marked. Maybe it will be by NHC anytime between now and the weekend, I'd say. So we'll see how that goes, guys, but I will be keeping you posted. The models have been pretty consistent about seeing something really get itself together in the Caribbean. And something else as well, guys, we haven't really looked at any model runs, so let's look at GFS and Euro for that. And we are starting out with the GFS. The modern update, that is still processing as of when I'm making this video, so I'll show you what's loaded for now. So this is as we're going to be headed into next Monday the 20th, so that's going to be the time second tropical wave approaches, and the one ahead of it would have already entered the Caribbean. We can see that rain surge indicated by those shades of greens and even those spots of yellows and oranges. And then as we're going to be headed into Thursday the 23rd, we can see that area of low pressure forming as that second tropical wave. That's the one that we'll be watching as it makes its way to the west. And then eventually, with all these frontal systems coming out, we have a weakening in that area of high pressure that GFS is forecasting. This is going to next weekend, and we can see what appears to be a tropical storm intensifying just south of Hispaniola with a pressure of 994 millibars. And then as it pertains to Euro, as we're going to be headed into the latter part of next week, going to next Wednesday, Thursday, we can see here that it is showing that surge in moisture as well within the vicinity of the Central and Western Caribbean. But here's the interesting thing. We have that frontal system out there, and it's going to pretty much help this system to start to move on a northeastward like track. So it takes a system just within the vicinity of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, moving up and out. This as we're going to be headed into the end of next week and into the early part of the following week, going to the middle part of that week as well. So pretty interesting scenario here from the Euro model. And while these are very plausible scenarios, we're not sure exactly what's going to be happening just yet. We just have an idea, and that's why it's so important to keep watch of the system as it is going to be headed in. So that's what I'm going to be doing for you guys. Again, if you're going to be impacted by all that heavy rain, ensure that you take the necessary precautions, walk with your umbrellas, raincoats, and if you should see any floodwaters, turn around, don't drown. So that's it for today, guys, and I do hope you found this video to be informative. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. I will get to you when I can, and remember to always be weatherwise.